Hey there everyone, welcome back to Lydia's Plate. Today we're preserving cucumbers in the form of dill pickles. So the first thing I need to do is make sure that I have all my lids ready to go in the pot so that I can warm up the rubber seals on them and then rinse my jars. I'm also checking my lids here to see if they're still all good from last year. So there we go, they're in the pot, turn that on, and those can start to warm up. Now in my oven, because I don't have a canning pot, I am going to start my water steaming. So I steam my jars in an oven bath. This pan came with my oven. It's a nice heavy-duty, deeper pan, and I'm going to fill that pan about half full with water. So now the next thing to do is get my brine started. That always takes a little while to cook up and it needs to boil for 5 minutes. So I need to get that started before I start filling my jars. It can boil for longer than the 5 minutes, but it's a pain in the butt once you have your jars full and you're on a time crunch, you're busy and you want to get things going, and now you have to wait for your brine to cook up. So that's why I want to start the brine first. I'm using kosher salt here right now, but regular salt works as well. I've done it both ways. Both ways work. Now I'm going to give that a stir to make sure that the sugar and salt incorporate into the water and vinegar, and then we can get on with the jars and the cucumbers. So first I'm going to rinse my jars under really hot water. This is so hot that I can hardly stand to have my hands under there. These jars were through the dishwasher last year, so that's why I'm just giving them a nice hot rinse like this. So now my cucumbers I have washed already. So I'm just going to pull them out of the sink here and bring them over to the island so that you can see better what I'm going to do. And then I need to put the items into the jars that need to go in there before the cucumbers go in. So each jar gets a head of dill, which I'm also rinsing, washing, whatever you want to call it. And then each jar will also get some pickling spice, a piece of onion, and a garlic clove. The dill and the onion have come straight from the garden, and that is why they need to be washed first. Now this is also to your personal preference with the garlic. We like our dill pickles to have a good garlic flavor, so I put a whole clove into each jar. It is fully peeled. If you like less garlic, you can cut those cloves in half, or the really large ones you can even cut into thirds. There we go, that's the pickling spice. Now onto these cucumbers. I'm going to call Cassandra over because she is very good at being my helper and tightly packing those cucumbers into the jars. We have found it really makes a difference. If the cucumbers are tightly packed into the jar, you can get away with less brine which means you're saving on ingredients, and you're also saving space because you're not wasting space. You're getting more cucumbers into the jar, which also means you're saving jars if you want to be able to can more items. And meanwhile, I am trimming the ends off the cucumbers. That is also personal preference. Some people leave them on, some people trim them off, some people trim them even farther than I trim them. So that is also to your preference. I am just barely trimming off each end. Alrighty, so there we go. She's packing up that last jar, and in the meantime, whenever I have a little bit of time, I've been working on these beans, but that's just because I'm super busy tonight. I've got a lot to get done. I've already been away from home and back. So here we go. Those jars are filled, the brine is cooked and ready, the lids are nice and hot, and we're going to get these jars filled. So I want to fill them with brine all the way up until the start of the neck on the jar, so the bottom of the neck. That's how far I'm filling each jar. You also want to be careful as much as possible not to make a mess, because the more mess you make, the more mess you have to clean up, and the higher risk that your jars won't seal. So there we go. I got it right this time and did not run out of brine. Sometimes I underestimate or overestimate. So now I have gotten a clean cloth, run it under the water, and I'm just wiping off each jar to try to ensure my chances of all the jars sealing. Once that's done, I like to take a cup with very hot water, as hot as I can stand it, and I'll dip my finger in there and run it around the top of each jar to also ensure better results of sealing. Now that that's done, I've taken a clean tea towel, folded it up, and I'm going to take each lid out of the water onto there and place it on top of the jar. Once I've done that, I'm placing these rings onto the jars, and I'm just turning them until they get tight with one hand turning on the ring. And if I turn it so far that it gets tight enough that the entire jar wants to turn, like this one here, then I am loosening it off just a little bit, because I want to make sure that there's just a little bit of space in there as they sit in the oven for that steam to be able to get in there and really soften up that rubber and help that seal. So there we go. This is my fancy UV glove. It works very, very well. It has very nice grip on it, and I'm just double checking all those rings and lids, and now in they go. They're going to sit in there now for 20 minutes, and then we'll take them out. So here we go, 20 minutes later, and as I pull them out, I'm going to tighten up each one as tight as what I can crank it. I'm trying to be super, super careful not to jostle the jars at all, because I don't want any liquid to come up and touch on that seal, because that will destroy my seal. It needs to stay very clean. So there we go. Now we just sit and wait for all the pops to start to happen. And if you want to sit around and wait and watch, if you've never seen this before, I'll let the video continue. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this or learned something. Maybe you do it differently, but all the best with your canning. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, press the bell if you want to be notified every time we post a new video. And I look forward to sharing more ideas with you of what you can do. Bye guys!